Please hold on to your questions for Carl, because we'll take them after we've heard from Rebecca. Rebecca's going to talk a little bit about how grassroots organisations can use technology to better effect.
Hello. So I'm Rebecca Ray. I work for Reason Digital. We're a digital agency that only works in the third sector and have done for 8 years now. There are 40 of us, so we've got quite a lot of niche knowledge at Reason Digital. But I personally, I've worked in the digital sector for 10 years. I am older than I look. One day I won't be able to use that, and it will be the saddest day ever. But we make digital do good. So I worked in the voluntary sector alongside my day job in digital, probably for like 16 years. I did it from school and everything. I was just really interested in the charity sector. So it's great that now I can combine the two. I was like, oh, I can give up like working in the evenings with charities, and now I can just do my day job because it combines. But no, that's not the case. I just work all the time anyway. But I've become cynical over that time about digital. I say become cynical. I'm kind of naturally a cynic. I hate things. I criticize stuff all the time. It's kind of my natural nature. I'm one of those people that kind of goes on the internet and shouts at people who I think are wrong. It's a hobby of mine. I kind of come at things from a negative point of view, but I believe in positive negativity. I've just made that phrase up right now. Because I think you can get angry at stuff, and if people like me don't get angry at stuff, things won't get better. So when you have a friend that's always narky about things, don't go, why are you always so angry? If they're doing something about that anger, it's good anger. I like to promote this idea as far and wide as I can. So that's kind of what I've based this presentation on, things that annoy me that are still happening in the sector that shouldn't be. And I like to think of that kind of as the 3G. So we're not getting 3G right at the minute. Why did we move to 4G? But actually, we needed to move to 4G because of progress, because we're going to be left behind if we don't. So I am going to talk about the 4G of what's next. So that's been talked about quite a lot today, service delivery. How can we actually make a difference rather than just the promotional aspects of things? And I'm going to start with this slide, which is a bunch of quotes, which I'll read out to you. The overabundance of information is both confusing and harmful to the mind. Access to so much information will make people forgetful. They won't use their memories anymore. It's exhausting children's brains with complex information, and their being stuck indoors is ruining their fitness. And it's hurting conversation, reading, and the patterns of family living. Who's heard things like this about digital, about social media? Yeah, everybody. It's probably someone within your organisation that you have to convince that digital is a good thing. I've read things like this in newspapers. I have family members who think like this. But actually, none of these are about digital. So we can use this slide against them, and I'll explain why. So the first one was actually probably said in about 1536. Obviously, he'd never used email or social media, and he was talking about the printing press. The next one's Socrates in 400 BC. He's talking about reading. Then the next one is about schools. I think that was the General Medical Council or someone really important like that. And the final one was about television. So there's always going to be somebody who stands in the way of the latest thing and progress. This slide actually was the reason why I'm talking to you today, because so I've peaked early. This was the selling slide. I thought better do it again because it was good. And I will start on a positive for digital. So it isn't the be-all and end-all. It isn't just a magical kind of answer to everything and all of your problems. I'm definitely not going to tell you that today. But what it is a massive growth area. So these stats basically saying charity donations grew around 5%, but there's a growth area in digital. The charity donations in digital are growing by 13.5%. This was from 2013, so this gap is much, much bigger now, and it is a growth area. So there is some positivity there. But we tend to think about digital as a numbers game, how much reach we can get, how many conversions we can get, what kind of donations we can get, how many people we can get to sign up to our database so we can campaign to them at a later date. It's not a numbers game. This slide, mocked up by our wonderful Alex, who's our illustrator. It's a family, so we've got mum and dad trying to talk to their son, but the son has a question. The son's probably got some question about his personal life. It could be something that's incredibly important. It could be something more flippant. We don't know. But actually what he's doing is going online to find help with his personal problems. He's not asking his family or friends. So we, as charities, need to be there. We have an obligation to be there for these people that are searching for things online. I don't want to be grim right at the start of my presentation, but if we aren't there at the top of those search results answering his question, somebody with more dubious morals could be. So, digital breaks down barriers for a wider reach. I think we all kind of know that. It certainly breaks down geographical barriers. We can definitely get out to more people. We do kind of know that. I think that digital's got a bad rep recently with the whole Trump thing and the bubbles. You know, we're all in our own little bubble and we only see the news that we want to. Fine, it's true, I hate the bubble. We need to get rid of the Facebook algorithm. But actually it still does allow organisations, smaller organisations, to have a reach that they wouldn't have had before. It allows that person's voice to get out there. And if we didn't have the internet, that wouldn't happen. So there is still the flip side. So there's a lot of people saying, oh, I'm going to leave social media because of this. No, use it right. So, although I'm being really positive so far, here's where I start to be a bit narky about it. So, social media used to be great for grassroots organisations. You used to be able to set up a Facebook page, get a big giant following, and it was all amazing. But it's much, much harder now to get that following, get that reach, because Twitter's going to die because it's got no ad revenue. It's got no way of funding itself. It's struggling. So it's trying to make you pay for it. So in a much bigger way than ever before, it's pushing advertising on you. So is Facebook, so is Google. They do have a lot of control over us. Twitter, so some of us might have like great followings on Twitter and be like, we're doing great work on Twitter. What if it shut down like tomorrow? Vine shut down. I don't know if anybody put a lot of effort and work into building up a Vine audience, but some people did, and now it's gone, and that could just happen any day. A lot of control is in the hands of these. I don't know if anybody does fake Facebook reports and just sees a drop-off one week for absolutely no reason. I'm telling you now, it's harder for me to explain that to clients, and they're like, why has my reach dropped off? I'm paying you lots of money to make sure the reach goes up every week. Well, actually, it's not my fault, it's Facebook's fault. That just sounds like a terrible excuse, but it's true. But you might say, okay, you're telling me I need to pay for things, but what about things like no makeup selfie and the, whatever that one was, the ice bucket challenge? They just went viral. Well, no, actually, viral is fake. I'm being slightly contrary there because obviously these guys went viral, but they don't really count because they're cats. So you might say, well, what about this guy, widely known as the biggest brand viral that happened, yeah? Old Spice guy, brand viral, organisations are going viral. So what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Viral is fake. This wasn't a viral video. This was an advertisement. They paid $4 million for a 40-second advert slot. And it was on at Super Bowl, which is the biggest advert slot in the world. It's going to go out to the most people. So to say that this is a viral is utterly ludicrous. It's just an advert. So if one more person comes to me and asks for a viral video, I'm going to go berserk because I've told enough people now. I've said this at every presentation. But we go back to paid advertisement then. And I think sometimes it's a dirty word to mention paid advertisement on the internet, especially in the third sector. But actually it's becoming a more important to get anywhere really with digital, to push start or kickstart a campaign with paid advertisements. And there is stuff out there that helps. Google for Nonprofits is doing great stuff, giving charities loads of money to spend on PPC ads for free. That's nice of them. I mean, there's a lot of restrictions, but it's better than nothing. And YouTube's, we can upgrade YouTube to a fancy pro account now for free as well. So consider it, but there are other ways. We can use other people's channels to reach out to a wider audience as well. Does anybody recognise this? Double rainbow, yes. So again, people will say, but Bex, Double Rainbow, another viral video. Why are you saying that viral doesn't exist? Well, actually, when this was uploaded, it did nothing. It absolutely did nothing for ages and ages and ages. It didn't just go viral. It wasn't until an influencer tweeted about it that it actually did something of any use. We all know Zoella, right? Anyone from Mind here? You bagged Zoella. Well done you. Nobody else can have her now. So find your own influencers, but make them ambassadors. There will be ones that are interested in your cause. Has anyone seen the new AR UK video? Isn't it sad? They got Stephen Fry to do the voiceover. I have no idea whether he was paid or not, but you know, you're getting an influence there. That's going to get at the reach that we want. And a lot of people don't use emotion in the right way, I don't feel. This was a study done on New York Times articles. So university students at Pennsylvania University stuck a little like tag on each one. Was it, what kind of emotion was it portraying? What was it doing for the audience? And measured the virality of these articles over time. And anger did really, really well. As I say, a lot of people like me like to go on the internet and complain about stuff. If anybody's read a YouTube comment section, you'll know this to be true. Sadness actually strangely didn't do too well, but any sort of emotion is better than nothing. I feel like the content a lot of people create for the internet isn't emotional at all. It'll just be very quickly and kind of rudimentarily done. You'll get given a PDF and you'll just stick it on your website. But what is the best format for that piece of content? We have to stand out. We're standing out against a lot of other content. We're standing out against publishers on the internet, and we've got to go up against brands with big budgets. So Dove, my most hated brand because they use sadvertising, as we call it. They're kind of getting in on our charity messaging by being really sad with their messaging. But what I hate most about this particular advert is this particular comment by Katie Fish. She says, "I love your new ads. I hated the old ones, but if you keep this up, since I don't care about my soap too much, I'll try supporting yours." You don't support soap, Katie. Don't support soap. And I think we also forget to build communities. A lot of us, I think, forget about the social in social media. We're not just pushing out information here, build a community. Greenpeace are really good at this, so they have hundreds of different Facebook groups. I'm not saying this is the answer, but they do that because they split out by cause. Some people are interested. I love Sea Shepherd. Sea Shepherd's great, so I follow that. Not too interested in general Greenpeace, so I won't follow that necessarily. You can split out communities in a lot of different ways. A lot of people will come to me and say, no, but my supporter base is varied and they're all very different, so how can I find one common interest? Well, they've got one common interest, it's you and what you do. There will be something. If there's two that are too varied, split them out. Somebody who did this really well recently was the Brook. So then marathon runners don't actually care too much about their cause. They just like to run in marathons, as you'll find a lot of the time working in charities, that is the case. So they split out their marathon runners and put them in a WhatsApp group so they could talk to each other about marathon stuff. So it got to the point in the day where a lot of people have said similar things to what I'm going to say. But that's great. That means that we've got things that we can be working on that everybody agrees on. So online and offline are often the same thing. We keep talking about digital. Don't talk about digital. Talk about human behavior, human wants and needs. And can digital be a way to meet that? How to win friends and influence people. A lot of say, I don't know how to talk to somebody on Twitter, it's a bit weird. Just think about how you would talk to somebody in real life. There's no difference. So we've done this bit. Anybody know who this is? Martha. She did this blog. No, but I'll still go through it because it's a slightly different angle. It's just to say that she's like doing all of my tips that I've already just done. So she has shocking emotional content there. Everybody's shocked when they see this picture. That's an emotion. Her content's great. Then she gets an influencer involved. So Jamie Oliver tweeted about it. And then she asks for money. So you don't ask to get married on the first date usually, right? That's in your how to win friends and influence people. If you're making a friend, you don't go up to them and go, hey, can I lend some money? You might ask your friend of 5 years for some money, so you need to build that relationship. So that's what she's done before she's asked for money. And as we've said, if an 8-year-old can do it. So I'm going to stop talking about that bit now, because that's the bit we should have got right. That's 3G. We should have got that right by now. Whether we have or haven't is a different story. Talking about 3G, why is our 3G so terrible? I recently went to Iceland. I don't know if anybody's been, but I was in the middle of a glacier. I hadn't seen humans for 3 hours, and there was amazing 4G. They have the population of Greater Manchester in the entire country, so I don't know why we can't get it right. It's as big as the UK, if not bigger, so anyway. Digital for service, I've gone off on one. Digital for service delivery. This is what we really need to do. We need to use digital to deliver the service, not just promote the service. Don't measure likes. What the hell is the point? We need to understand our users. That's the first port of call. That's what we need to do first. We've talked about this with testing. Prototyping is the only real way of doing this. And if we talk about assumptions as well. So I'm from a research background. Research can be as long as a piece of string. We can go on forever and not really 100% fully answer a question and fully understand our audience. There'll always be another question we just want to ask, and we just want to validate. So what we kind of do a lot of the time, especially in digital, especially with the charity sector when there's not that much money, we try to just list all of our assumptions and try and validate as many as we can. Just to reduce risk, really, we validate the ones that are more important to our project, and we can kind of ignore the others. So there will always be assumptions to be made about our users, but let's work along the road to try and reduce them and validate them as we go. So I've got some examples for you now of great service delivery online, or little bits and bobs that have been good. So this is horrible. This is a piece of information that I think the NHS uses to help older people with stability problems. A lot of old people fall over and potentially die regularly. And this is what they're given to try and do some exercises to help with balance. It's terrible, it's awful, and the users say, I don't want to read this, probably won't read this, I'll continue to fall over. So our challenge was obviously to make this more interesting and stimulating, so we played around with visual aspects here, movement as well. We've got sound and video, but this is just a prototype. We did it very, very quickly, and we're currently testing it with users. So the point of this little example is that we've tested very quickly. So we talked earlier about failing. You fail all the time with digital because true tests can't be done until you've built something. You can't just ask somebody, would you like the idea of an app with a silly man who moves and says things? Would you like that? People just say, yeah. They don't really know if they want that, and you won't know until you've seen them use it. So we're testing that in a prototype. See how it goes. We recently went to a Tech for Good conference, and someone from the EU there who works within Tech for Good says the biggest problem within charity, within digital, and therefore it's compounded when we talk about charity and digital merging, is cannibalization. So a lot of people are doing the same thing, but with digital it's actually better, if possible, to work together on it, because we need that kind of critical mass for people to buy into a digital product. So if we can work together, it's going to be way much better. And this is something where we worked on that it's not going to work unless all the charities are going to get on board with this. So the idea is that somebody wants to donate stuff to a charity shop. I don't know if you've ever tried to do that, but it's an absolute nightmare. You have to ring up places. First of all, you have to find your local charity, which can be hard enough. One that accepts things. I don't have a car, so I need someone who's going to come and pick it up and take it there. Then they want to see a photograph of it, and it's all just a big palaver. So this app was designed to alleviate that, and we've had incredibly good feedback on the application. It works really well. It's slick. It's easy to use. The problem here is if the charities don't get on board with it and work together, and we get all of the charities on there, that's going to make this a success when people start working together. This is not a charity example, but it's amazing and weird. Amazon. So we all know, or we've used Amazon before. So they know that by certain behavioral algorithms, they will track how many times people go onto a certain item. And what they'll do is they'll assume, based on your behaviors, you're going to buy that. They know how likely you are to buy something before you've bought it. And what they'll do is they'll ship that to your local delivery centre so you can get it sooner. So the next time you go to the page and you're like, oh, I can get it tomorrow, you're more likely to buy it. How creepy is that? But that's so cool. That's kind of a cool application. Like, imagine services where we can use this kind of thinking to make things easier for people. This was an abstinence-based recovery centre. So it was a centre, people would come who were addicted to maybe drugs or alcohol, and they tried to just not use it. And the only way that worked for them was peer support. That was the biggest thing. But as soon as it's 9 to 5 office, as soon as they're out of that building, they've got no more support. So they were asking, I want more support, I want support out of hours. Also, too many people were coming to the centre, and it's a physical building, so they ran out of space. So they were like, how can we do this digitally? So again, this is a prototype type stage, and we're still testing this with users. But it's, when we talk about peer-to-peer support, it's more than a forum, it's more than a messaging service. This looks at, so we tested it in a WhatsApp group to see the appetite for people to support each other. Some of the things we found out of that were that you can't pair up somebody who's having a bad day with somebody who's having a bad day, because they will spiral. So this will look at pairing people who are having good days and bad days. So it's more nuanced than just a messaging service. And we could only have found that out by trialling it and kind of doing the thorough research in advance. This was a cool quote, and again, it harks back to not thinking about digital as digital. So interfaces, how we interact with digital, is a barrier. It's terrible. We need to get rid of this. So something that's really interesting at the moment is bots. I don't know how much everybody knows about bots or how they can work, but we're moving away from interfaces and we're moving more towards conversational interfaces. So don't build somewhere for people to go to. You come to them. So if people are already using WhatsApp, can you interject into their WhatsApp conversations to help them in some way? I see bots as being an amazing way to deliver services, because you don't want to make people go somewhere they're new or create a new app for them or make something new. I don't like using new technology for the sake of using new technology, but I see real application in bots for service delivery. So this one hasn't got a solution yet, but we are working on it. So Childline get too many calls. There are loads of calls from children to Childline that just do not get answered. They don't get answered at all. So I see bots as being a really cool application there. Surely it's better for the children to be speaking to something or someone in a conversational way than it is to speak to nobody. And the final example I've got here is something that we've worked on for a long time. It's probably our flagship product, but we work with a sex worker safety organisation called MASH, these are notifications of attacks that sex workers have had. They've come in, explained it to someone, it's been put on a board, but it might be a week before the next sex worker sees it. And it's absolutely useless because it's too long. That's too long a time period for somebody to get alerted. So we've developed an app which obviously can be instantaneous, where people can put the alerts up. And it's just an easy transformation to digital where it's going to work better. Again, this is in testing stage. Hopefully, it's already saved a life. So then you get to the last slide when you do these presentations. You're like, I don't know how to finish. I don't know what to say now. I think conclusions maybe come around. You will need to test stuff and fail all the time. That's what we do. That's what digital is. And it's the only way to make sure that what we're doing, because if you're going to spend maybe 60 grand on a new app or service online, actually maybe just spend 5 to do prototype and testing, and then it might fail. And you've lost that 5, but at least you've not lost 60, right? So we might fail. Stop thinking about digital as digital. Don't come up to somebody and say, I want a viral video, or I want an app. Tell me what the problem is, and I'll tell you what the answer is. Or maybe there is no digital answer. So I've finished on a cheesy quote, because I didn't know what else to do. Thanks.